Road warriors, the wrong trucker to mess with. The sun was setting on a long stretch of highway, casting golden light over the deserted road. Behind the wheel of her massive 18-wheeler, Sarah, Red, Malone adjusted her rearview mirror and sighed. She had been on the road for 12 hours straight, hauling a heavy load across state lines. With her were her two most loyal companions, Rex and Shadow, highly trained military dogs she had adopted after her time in the Army K-9 unit. Red had seen it all on the road, but trouble had a way of finding her. A sudden roar of engines broke the calm evening as a group of 5 bikers rolled up beside her truck. Their leather jackets bore the insignia of a notorious outlaw club, the Reapers. One of them, a burly man with a scruffy beard and a cruel grin, revved his engine and gestured for her to pull over. Red narrowed her eyes. She had dealt with these types before. The bikers began swerving dangerously close to her rig, shouting crude remarks and daring her to stop. One even threw a beer bottle at her windshield, the glass shattering on impact. "Big mistake," she muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. Instead of slowing down, she pressed on the gas, her truck roaring forward. The bikers didn't back off. They surrounded her, forcing her toward an empty rest stop on the side of the road. Fine. They wanted a showdown? They'd get one. Red pulled into the lot and parked, stepping out slowly. She was clad in worn jeans, boots, and a fitted leather jacket, her fiery red hair tied back. The bikers laughed as she faced them. "Didn't mean to scare you, sweetheart," the bearded leader sneered, stepping forward. "Just thought you could use some company." Red smirked. "Company, huh? You boys are barking up the wrong tree." The bikers laughed, stepping closer. But they didn't notice the low growls from the cab of her truck until the doors swung open. Rex and Shadow leaped out, landing between Red and the bikers with lethal precision. Shadow, the massive black Belgian Malinois, bared his fangs, while Rex, a scarred German shepherd, locked eyes with the leader, his growl deep and menacing. The bikers froze. "Meet my boys," Red said coolly. "They're trained to take down armed enemies. Want to see what they do to punks like you?" The leader took a hesitant step back, but one of the younger bikers scoffed, reaching for something inside his vest. "Wrong move. Attack," Red commanded. In a flash, Rex lunged at the biker, knocking him flat on his back, teeth inches from his throat. Shadow charged another, sending the man stumbling backward into his own bike. The leader scrambled back, raising his hands. Hey. We were just messing around." Red crossed her arms. "Not so funny now, huh?" The biker on the ground whimpered as Rex pressed a heavy paw on his chest, a growl vibrating in his throat. "Call him off," the leader begged. Red took a step closer. "You see that bottle you threw? That could have caused a crash. People die that way. So here's the deal. You get back on your bikes and you never mess with truckers again. Otherwise..." She nodded toward her dogs. "They get to practice their training." The leader swallowed hard. "You got it. No problem. We're outta here." Red whistled, and her dogs backed off, returning to her side with perfect discipline. The bikers scrambled onto their motorcycles and sped off, disappearing into the night. With a satisfied smile, Red patted her dogs' heads. "Good boys." She climbed back into her truck, Rex and Shadow settling beside her. As she pulled back onto the highway, she chuckled to herself. Some people never learned, but at least tonight, a few bikers had. Red drove on through the night, her hands steady on the wheel, but her mind remained sharp. She knew men like the Reapers. They didn't take humiliation lightly. That encounter back at the rest stop had sent a message, but something told her it wasn't over. Her gut feeling was confirmed when she noticed a pair of headlights trailing her too closely. Then another set. And another. She exhaled sharply. "Looks like they want a round two." Rex and Shadow stirred in the cab, their ears perking up as if sensing the tension in the air. A moment later, the rumbling sound of motorcycle engines surrounded her once again. The Reapers were back, and this time there were more of them, at least 10 riders. The lead biker, the same bearded man from before, now wore a hardened expression. He pointed at her with 2 fingers, then made a slicing motion across his throat. "Oh, so now we're playing serious?" Red muttered. She glanced at the road ahead, an upcoming bridge with a single-lane construction zone. Perfect. As the bikers moved in, Red slammed on her brakes, forcing the ones riding too close to swerve wildly to avoid collision. One biker lost control, his wheels skidding out from under him as he tumbled onto the pavement. The others roared in frustration, their headlights flashing through her side mirrors. Red didn't give them time to regroup. She hit the gas again, accelerating toward the narrowing lane. She swerved hard, cutting off the leader and forcing him toward the concrete barriers. He barely regained control, cursing as he wobbled on his bike. But Red wasn't done yet. With one hand on the wheel, she pressed a button on her dashboard. PSSSSSHHHH. A thick cloud of air brake exhaust erupted from the rear of her truck, sending dust and debris into the bikers' faces. A few of them coughed and veered off course. The leader, however, was still coming. Red spotted something in his hand, a crowbar. Oh, hell no. She reached down and flipped open a hidden compartment, revealing an old friend, her sawed-off shotgun. The bikers thought they had cornered an ordinary trucker. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Red rolled down her window, leveled the shotgun out, and fired a warning shot into the air. Boom. The deafening blast echoed through the highway. The Reapers immediately backed off, skidding and swerving to avoid another shot. The leader cursed, his face twisted with rage, but he knew better than to push his luck. They were outmatched. One by one, the bikers peeled away, disappearing into the dark. Red exhaled and lowered the shotgun. She set it back in its place and gave her dogs a reassuring pat. That's what I thought. The highway stretched out before her, quiet once more. But she knew she had made enemies tonight. And enemies always came back. Red didn't let her guard down. Even after the Reapers disappeared into the night, she knew this wasn't the last she'd see of them. Rex and Shadow were still alert, their sharp eyes watching the road ahead. She reached over and scratched behind Rex's ears. Good boys. We sent them running, but something tells me we're not done yet. She checked her fuel gauge, half a tank left. She had planned on stopping at a truck stop in about an hour, but now she wasn't so sure. The Reapers were cowards when outmatched, but cowards had a way of getting desperate. Her CB radio crackled. Breaker, this is Big Jim. Red, you out there? She grabbed the receiver. I'm here, Jim. What's up? A deep, gravelly voice responded. Heard some chatter on the highway. Word is the Reapers are calling in reinforcements. You might want to lay low for a bit. Red cursed under her breath. Any idea where they're planning to hit me? They got a few guys posted near Ridge Canyon Pass. Ain't much traffic out that way at night. If they want to trap you, that's where they'll do it. Red's grip tightened on the wheel. Ridge Canyon Pass was a winding, isolated stretch of road with steep cliffs on one side and dense forest on the other. If the Reapers were planning something, that was the perfect spot for an ambush. She had two choices. 1. Take an alternate route, adding an extra 2 hours to her trip. 2. Go straight through Ridge Canyon Pass and be ready for whatever waited on the other side. Red glanced at her dogs. Shadow's ears twitched, and Rex let out a low growl. They could sense what was coming. A slow smirk spread across her face. We're not running, boys. She picked up the CB again. Jim, you still got that favor you owe me? There was a pause before Big Jim chuckled. What do you need? Red's eyes gleamed as she checked the weapons stash hidden in her truck. Back up. Red drove on, the hum of her 18-wheeler steady as she approached Ridge Canyon Pass. The road ahead was dark, winding, and dangerously isolated. A perfect spot for an ambush. Rex and Shadow were tense, their sharp eyes scanning the road. They could sense it, too. Then, up ahead, headlights. Not just one or two. At least a dozen. The Reapers had regrouped. Red smirked. Guess they don't learn. The gang was spread across the road, blocking her path. The bearded leader from before stood in front, holding a steel chain in one hand and a shotgun in the other. Through her side mirrors, Red spotted more headlights. They had her surrounded. Her CB crackled. "Red, you still with me?" It was Big Jim. She picked up the receiver. "I'm here." "Good. You got about 30 seconds before we make some noise. Hold tight." Red's smirk widened. She slammed on the brakes, bringing her truck to a screeching halt. The Reapers flinched but didn't back off. The leader stepped forward, smirking. "End of the road, sweetheart." Red calmly unbuckled her seatbelt. "Yeah? We'll see about that." She tapped twice on the dashboard. Rex and Shadow leaped from the passenger seat, barking furiously. The Reapers hesitated. Then, boom. A deafening explosion rocked the canyon. The bikers spun around as two massive rigs barreled down the highway, their horns blaring like war drums. Big Jim and his crew had arrived. The first truck sideswiped two bikes, sending them flying into the ditch. The second rig swerved hard, kicking up dust and forcing more bikers to scatter. Chaos erupted. Red took her chance. She flung open her door, letting Rex and Shadow charge. Rex tackled one biker to the ground, his sharp teeth inches from the man's throat. Shadow lunged at another, knocking him off his feet. Red jumped down from her truck, a tire iron in one hand and her shotgun in the other. The leader raised his own shotgun too slow. Boom. Red's shot clipped his bike, sending it skidding across the pavement. He cursed, stumbling backward. Big Jim stepped out of his truck, a baseball bat in hand, grinning. "Thought you boys liked picking fights. What happened?" The Reapers, now outnumbered and outgunned, scrambled. Some tried to fight, but Jim's crew was all muscle and experience. In minutes, the bikers were on the ground, groaning in pain or running for their lives. Red walked up to the leader, who was crawling backward, clutching his arm. She crouched beside him. "Next time," she said coolly, "pick on someone else." Then she whistled. Rex growled low, his teeth bared, and Shadow let out a deep snarl. The leader bolted. Red chuckled, watching the few remaining bikers limp off into the night. Big Jim crossed his arms. "Hell of a mess." Red patted her dogs. "Nothing we couldn't handle." Jim grinned. "Damn right." With the road clear, Red climbed back into her truck, her dogs following close behind. As she started the engine, Jim's voice crackled over the CB. "Drinks on me when you hit town, Red." She smirked. "I'll hold you to that." With one final blast of her horn, Red rolled out, leaving the Reapers in the dust. Tonight, the road had belonged to her. But she knew there'd always be another fight ahead. And she'd be ready for it. Red kept driving through the night, the adrenaline from the fight slowly wearing off. Rex and Shadow had finally settled down, but their ears remained perked, ever watchful. The Reapers had been beaten, humiliated. But were they really done? Her gut told her no. As the city lights finally appeared on the horizon, her CB crackled again. "Red, you reading me?" It was Big Jim. She grabbed the receiver. Loud and clear. "You might want to watch your six. Just got word. The Reapers are licking their wounds, but their Prez is on his way." Red's grip on the wheel tightened. Prez. Their club president. Duke Iron Jaw Carson. Mean bastard. Ex-con. Runs the whole damn gang like a paramilitary outfit. Jim's tone was serious now. He don't take kindly to outsiders making his boys look weak. Red sighed. "Great. And here I thought I'd get a peaceful night's sleep." Jim chuckled. "You? Peaceful? Come on now." She smirked but stayed focused. "Any idea where Duke is now?" "Last I heard, he's rallying more guys. These ain't just your average punks. We're talkin' mercenaries, ex-soldiers, real killers." Red exhaled slowly. This was bigger than just a bunch of road bullies now. Then, in her rearview mirror, headlights. A single bike, following from a distance. Not too close, but not far enough to be random. "Jim," she said, gripping the wheel. "I think I've got company already." The bike stayed in her blind spot, shadowing her every move. Then another CB frequency crackled through. A deep, gravelly voice came through the static. "Enjoyin' my highway, sweetheart?" Red's blood ran cold. "Duke." Red kept one hand steady on the wheel, the other hovering near the shotgun tucked beside her seat. Duke, Iron Jaw, Carson had finally made his presence known. His voice crackled through the CB again, low and taunting. "You made a mess of my boys, Red. That ain't gonna fly." She smirked but didn't answer. She knew his type, a man who wanted control, respect, and fear. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. The lone biker behind her remained at a distance. A scout? Or maybe just a warning? Rex and Shadow sensed the tension. Shadow growled low, ears pinned back, while Rex's sharp eyes stayed locked on the side mirror. The radio crackled again. "You ain't talking? That's fine. I like my women quiet." Red rolled her eyes. "Original." Duke chuckled. "You're funny. I like that. But you made a mistake, girl. You should have kept driving instead of picking a fight." Her jaw clenched. A mistake? The only mistake had been underestimating her. Up ahead, she spotted the flickering neon of a small truck-stop diner. Perfect. If Duke wanted to play, she'd set the rules. She grabbed the CB. "All right, Iron Jaw. You want to talk? Meet me at the Rusty Spoon Diner. But come alone." Duke laughed. "Now you're getting interesting." "All right, Red. See you soon." The radio went dead. Red exhaled, flexing her fingers. She could feel the storm coming. Rex and Shadow were already preparing. Red pulled into the Rusty Spoon Diner, the neon sign buzzing faintly in the cool night air. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few parked rigs and a couple of dusty cars. She killed the engine but kept her fingers close to the shotgun. Duke was coming. Rex and Shadow sat alert, their sharp eyes scanning the lot. They knew better than to relax. A single motorcycle engine rumbled in the distance, growing louder. Then another. And another. Red cursed under her breath. He didn't come alone. Duke's black Harley pulled into the lot first, his headlights casting long shadows. Behind him, 4 more riders rolled in, all wearing the Reaper's insignia. So much for keeping his word. Duke climbed off his bike, towering and broad-shouldered, his grizzled jaw lined with an old scar. His eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Red as he stepped forward. "Hell of a truck you got there, Red. Hell of a reputation, too." She leaned against her rig, arms crossed. "Guess that makes 2 of us. Thought I said to come alone." Duke smirked. "Trust is earned, sweetheart. You ain't earned mine yet." His men spread out, forming a loose semicircle around her truck. Not close enough to attack, but close enough to send a message. Shadow let out a low, menacing growl. Rex's ears were pinned back, his muscles tensed. Duke chuckled. "Relax, dogs. I didn't come here to start something. Just came to talk." Red raised an eyebrow. "Funny, 'cause I don't recall asking for a conversation." Duke's smirk widened. "You got guts. I respect that. But you made enemies when you embarrassed my boys. That kind of thing? It don't go unanswered." Red didn't blink. "They tried to run me off the road. I just taught 'em some manners." Duke tilted his head. "Maybe so. But now I got a choice to make. Either I let this slide, or I make sure no trucker ever dares mess with the Reapers again." The air between them went still. The other bikers shifted slightly, ready for a fight. Red's fingers twitched near her waistband, where a knife was hidden. Then the diner door swung open. Big Jim, the burly trucker, stepped onto the porch, a sawed-off shotgun resting casually over his shoulder. Behind him, 2 more truckers emerged from the diner, both armed, both ready. Jim smirked. Well, well. Thought I smelled garbage out here." Duke's men tensed. The odds had just changed. Red smiled. "Looks like I'm not the only one with friends." Duke studied them for a moment. Then slowly he grinned. "All right, Red. I'll give you this one. But this ain't over. Not by a long shot." He whistled, and his men backed off, mounting their bikes. Duke climbed onto his Harley, revved the engine, and pointed at her. "Watch your back, trucker." Then, with a roar of engines, they were gone. Jim sighed. "You sure know how to stir up a hornet's nest." Red chuckled. "Yeah, but I never get stung." She climbed back into her truck, her dogs settling beside her. The road was calling again. And she'd be ready for whatever came next. Red watched the taillights of Duke's gang fade into the night, but she knew this wasn't the last of them. Men like him didn't just walk away. They waited, plotted, and struck when the time was right. She'd dealt with their kind before, and she'd deal with them again. Rex and Shadow finally relaxed, but their instincts told them what she already knew. Trouble was still brewing. She sighed, gripping the wheel as she pulled out of the diner lot, Jim's voice still echoing in her mind. "You sure know how to stir up a hornet's nest." Well, let them come. She wasn't just some trucker passing through. She was a survivor, a fighter, and if Duke wanted to test her, she'd be ready. The highway stretched before her, dark and endless. Somewhere out there, the Reapers were waiting. But Red? She was waiting too. Red drove into the night, her 18-wheeler roaring down the open highway. The sky was pitch black, the only light coming from her headlights and the occasional neon glow of distant truck stops. The Reapers might have backed off for now, but she wasn't fooled. This wasn't over. Rex and Shadow lay in the cab beside her, their eyes half closed but still alert. They could sense it too. The storm was coming. Her CB radio crackled. "Breaker, breaker, Red, you out there?" It was Jim. She grabbed the receiver. Still rolling. "What's the word?" Jim sighed. "You ain't gonna like it. Word is, Duke ain't heading home. He's heading south, same direction as you." Red frowned. "How many?" "At least a dozen. But he's calling in favors. Some other gangs owe him, and if he gets them to ride, you're looking at 20, maybe 30 bikers." Red exhaled through her nose. "Damn." Jim's voice lowered. "Listen, I know you ain't want to back down, but these ain't just punks anymore. Duke's got ex-military guys, mercenaries, real killers. You sure you don't want to reroute?" Red shook her head. "If I run now, they'll just keep coming. Sooner or later, I'd have to face them." Jim was quiet for a moment. Then all right. "You're heading toward Devil's Ridge, yeah?"
"Yeah."
"I got some friends there. Not truckers, fighters. Old school boys who don't take kindly to bullies like Duke. If you can make it through the ridge, they'll be waiting on the other side." Red smirked. "Sounds like my kind of people." Jim chuckled. "Figured you'd say that. Just keep that rig rolling. They won't be expecting you to have backup." Red set the receiver down and tightened her grip on the wheel. If Duke wanted a war, he was about to get one. The ambush. The road through Devil's Ridge was narrow, winding, and deadly. One wrong turn, and a truck could go tumbling down into the canyon below. And that's exactly why the Reapers had chosen it for an ambush. As Red rounded a bend, her headlights caught the glint of steel.
A chain.
Stretched across the road. Son of a... She slammed the brakes. Too late. The chain snapped taut, ripping through the front grille of her truck, sending sparks flying. Her rig jerked to a halt, tires screeching. Then, the night erupted with roaring engines. Bikers emerged from the shadows, headlights flickering like the eyes of hungry wolves. More than a dozen. They surrounded her truck, cutting off any escape. Rex and Shadow immediately went into attack mode, barking furiously. Red didn't panic. Instead, she reached beneath her seat, gripping the handle of her shotgun. A single bike pulled forward.
Duke.
His scarred face twisted into a grin as he lit a cigar, taking a slow drag before exhaling the smoke into the cold night air. "Told you to watch your back, sweetheart." Red cocked her shotgun. "I did." Duke chuckled. "You're outnumbered, Red. Step out of that truck, and maybe I'll let you walk away from this." Red smirked. "Let me guess. If I don't..." Duke flicked his cigar to the ground, crushing it beneath his boot. "Then we do this the hard way." Red's response was simple. She pulled the trigger.
Boom.
The blast shattered the night, hitting the nearest biker square in the chest. He was flung off his bike, crashing onto the pavement. For a second, there was stunned silence. Then chaos. The Battle of Devil's Ridge. The Reapers roared in fury. Engines revved. Tires screeched. Gunshots rang out. Red ducked low, reloading her shotgun as bullets pinged off the metal of her truck. Rex and Shadow leapt from the cab, attacking the nearest bikers. Rex sank his teeth into one man's leg, dragging him to the ground, while Shadow lunged at another, knocking him off his bike. Duke cursed, pulling his pistol.
Bang.
Red fired first. The bullet clipped his arm, making him stumble back with a snarl. Then headlights. From the other side of the ridge, a convoy of trucks appeared. Jim's backup. The cavalry had arrived. Big rigs, pickup trucks, and armed men stormed in like a wave, slamming into the Reapers. Jim's shotgun boomed as he took down a biker trying to reload. Another trucker swung a crowbar, knocking a Reaper off his feet. The battle was brutal, fast, and merciless. Red fought like hell, using her truck for cover, firing her shotgun with deadly precision. Rex and Shadow were unstoppable, their fangs flashing in the moonlight. The Reapers, realizing they were losing, began retreating, scrambling for their bikes. Duke, bloodied and furious, locked eyes with Red one last time. "This ain't over," he spat before revving his bike and disappearing into the night. Aftermath. As the dust settled, Jim walked up, wiping blood from his knuckles.
Well,
"That was fun." Red smirked, loading her shotgun. "Think they'll come back?" Jim snorted. "Duke?
probably.
But after tonight, he'll be thinking twice." She glanced at the wreckage, bikes overturned, blood on the pavement, the smell of smoke in the air. It had been a battle, but it had also been a warning. Red climbed back into her truck, her dogs jumping in beside her. She had miles to go, and if Duke ever came looking again, she'd be ready. The road stretched out before Red, dark and endless, the scent of burnt rubber and gunpowder still clinging to the night air. Behind her, the aftermath of Devil's Ridge lay in ruins, twisted bikes, battered bodies, and a road stained with blood and oil. But the Reapers had scattered, licking their wounds, and for now, the highway belonged to her again. Rex and Shadow sat quietly in the passenger seat, still on high alert. They knew better than to think this was over. So did Red. Her CB crackled. "Red, you still breathing?"
Jim.
She grabbed the receiver, smirking. "Didn't doubt me, did you?" Jim chuckled. "Not for a second. But Duke? That bastard don't take a loss lightly." Red knew that much already. Duke had escaped tonight, but not without scars. That meant one thing: he'd be back. And next time, he wouldn't just bring a few bikers. He'd bring an army. She exhaled, rolling her shoulders. "Let him come. I'm not going anywhere." Jim was silent for a moment. Then, "You ever think about getting off the road? Laying low?" Red's hands tightened on the wheel. She had thought about it. A quiet life. A place where she wasn't always looking over her shoulder. But that wasn't who she was. "This highway's my home, Jim," she said finally. "I ain't running." Jim sighed. "Figured you'd say that." As she drove on, the desert stretched on either side of her, the only company the distant howl of the wind. Somewhere out there, Duke was planning his next move. But Red wasn't afraid. She'd been forged in fire. And if the Reapers wanted a war, they'd get one. Red's foot pressed heavier on the gas, the rumble of her engine growing louder as she pushed her rig past 70, 75, 80 miles per hour. The black SUV stayed with her, its dark silhouette a predator in the rearview mirror. This wasn't just some tale. Whoever was inside wanted her to know they were in control. Not a chance in hell. Rex and Shadow were up now, ears perked, muscles tense. They could feel the shift in the air. Red kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the sawed-off shotgun beside her seat. If these guys thought she was some helpless trucker, they were about to learn real fast how wrong they were. Her CB crackled again.
Jim.
"Red, you still got M on you? Like a bad rash." Jim cursed. "Listen, I got a contact just outside Amarillo. Old school trucker. Booby traps his damn yard like it's a war zone. If you can make it there, he'll have a surprise waiting." Red smirked. "Sounds like my kind of guy." The SUV suddenly swerved left. Her gut clenched. They were moving in. Then, headlights appeared ahead. 2 more vehicles. Waiting. An ambush. Red's pulse pounded, her mind racing. 3 against 1. Not great odds. She grabbed the CB. Jim, you better tell your buddy to set the welcome mat. Things are about to get real damn messy. Jim's voice was all business. Already done. Just make it to the ranch, Red. She adjusted her grip on the wheel. Copy that. The SUV behind her gunned its engine. The ones up ahead closed in. Red exhaled slowly. They wanted a fight? They were about to get one. Red's mind worked fast as the 2 SUVs up ahead angled to block the highway. The one behind her sped up, closing the trap. They thought they had her boxed in. They were wrong. Her grip tightened on the wheel. No time to hesitate. She slammed her foot on the gas, pushing the rig past 90 miles per hour. The massive engine roared, the weight of the trailer making the tires scream against the asphalt. If they thought she'd just stop and surrender, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The SUVs up front must have realized she wasn't slowing down. Too late. Red aimed straight for the gap between them. Narrow, but just enough room for an insane driver to squeeze through. And she was exactly that kind of driver. The moment she reached the blockade, she yanked the wheel hard to the right. The truck's trailer jackknifed, swinging sideways, smashing into one of the SUVs with the force of a wrecking ball. The impact sent the vehicle spinning off the road, flipping twice before landing in a ditch. The second SUV tried to dodge, but Red was already barreling through, her rig scraping against its side, tearing off the front bumper like it was tin foil. The driver lost control, swerving wildly before slamming into a road sign. But she wasn't free yet. The third SUV was still on her tail, undamaged, and now furious. Red glanced at the GPS 20 miles to the ranch. She just had to hold out. A flash of light in her side mirror, gunfire. The SUV's passenger was leaning out, pistol in hand, firing shots at her tires. Rex growled. Shadow barked. Red gritted her teeth. Enough of this. She reached over, grabbing her sawed-off shotgun. One hand on the wheel, the other gripping cold steel, she yanked open her window. The wind roared, whipping her hair back as she leaned out, aiming at the SUV's front tire.
Boom.
The blast tore through rubber and metal, and in an instant, the SUV veered hard to the left. The driver overcorrected too much. The vehicle flipped, rolling 3 times before landing upside down in the middle of the road. Red exhaled, gripping the wheel as she steadied her rig. The highway was clear again. But she knew it wasn't over. She grabbed the CB. Jim, you better tell your buddy to open the damn gate. I'm coming in hot. Jim laughed. He's already waiting, Red. Welcome to Texas. The ranch was just ahead. And something told her the real fight was just beginning. The ranch's gates swung open just as Red's truck roared down the dirt road, kicking up clouds of dust. The headlights of 3 more vehicles flared in her rearview mirror, Duke's reinforcements. They weren't done yet. A large barn loomed ahead, floodlights flickering on. Jim's old-school contact was already waiting, a towering man with a grizzled beard, a shotgun in one hand, and a cigar in the other. Behind him, a dozen men stood armed and ready, their weapons glinting in the moonlight. Red slammed the brakes, her rig skidding to a stop just as gunfire erupted. The first SUV burst through the gate, but before it could get far, boom. A tripwire mine exploded, sending the vehicle flipping onto its roof. The second SUV swerved violently, trying to avoid the wreck. One of Jim's men took aim with a rifle. One clean shot to the engine block. Smoke poured from the hood before the car spun out, crashing into a fence post. That left one. Duke's truck. The driver's door flew open, and Duke stepped out, bloodied but alive, pistol in hand. End of the road, Red, he called, voice raw with rage. Come out, and maybe I'll make this quick. Red opened her door, but she didn't step down empty-handed. She had Rex and Shadow at her side. Duke sneered. You really think those might scare me? Red smirked. They should. Duke raised his pistol, but he never got the shot off. Rex lunged, teeth sinking into his arm. He howled in pain, dropping the gun. Before he could react, Shadow tackled him, knocking him flat on his back. Red stepped forward, shotgun aimed at his chest. This is over, she said, voice cold. Duke coughed, glaring up at her. You think this is a win? You think guys like me don't come back? Red's jaw tightened.
Boom.
She fired. Not at him, at the ground, inches from his head. Dirt sprayed into the air. Duke flinched. You come back, she said. Next time I don't miss. Silence. Then Jim walked up, cocking his own shotgun. I suggest you get in that busted-up truck of yours and disappear, Duke. 'Cause out here, he glanced at his men. We don't bury bodies. We feed, to the hogs. Duke swallowed hard. Without another word, he staggered to his feet, stumbled to his SUV, and sped off into the night. Red exhaled. The fight was over.
For now.
Jim clapped a hand on her shoulder. Hell of a show, Red. You ever think about settling down? She smirked. Not my style. She climbed back into her truck, Rex and Shadow hopping in beside her. As the sun started to rise, she pulled back onto the highway, the open road stretching endlessly ahead. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was just getting started.
The end.